This family of endangered birds thought that they were the last one of their kind, but more of them existed on the other side of the world. The birds travel miles to meet their relatives, but this journey takes an unexpected turn. Blue and Jewel are a lovely couple of endangered Spix's macaws. To keep their species alive, two young zoologists, Linda and Tullio, brought the macaws to the beautiful city of Rio. Since then, Blue and Jewel have been enjoying a peaceful life and even started a family together. Rio is full of lively people and they gather to throw a big New Year party. Blue and Jewel join the party as well and feel grateful to meet each other. Jewel left her kids with their friend Raphael, but he left them with another bird and joined the party himself. Blue knows how mischievous his kids are, and not any bird can be their babysitter. He immediately runs home and finds his kids tying up the babysitter with rockets. Blue scolds his kids and asks them to take his permission before doing anything. The kids get frustrated because their parents never let them have any fun. Rio agrees with them, but they have to be extra careful as they are the last Spix's macaw family left on the planet. They witness the fireworks together and wish for a great new year. The next morning, Linda and Tullio set out on the journey to the Amazon forests. 6 months ago, they rescued a malnourished bird, and finally it has recovered enough to go back to his habitat. After dropping the bird near his family, the couple continues moving through the river, but they don't see the waterfall ahead. They survive the first waterfall, but the second is more dangerous and it breaks their boat into pieces. Luckily, both Linda and Tullio don't get any fatal injuries. However, they found something totally unexpected: a feather of Spix's macaws. Meanwhile, in the city, Rio is enjoying the absence of his caretakers. He sneaks into the kitchen and cooks some delicious pancakes for his kids. Jewel brought her favorite Brazil nut, but the kids prefer eating the human food. Jewel doesn't seem to like it because she grew up in the wild, but Blue prefers living the convenient life of the humans. Before Jewel can say anything, her attention diverts to the television. It's Linda and Tullio on the news. They show the blue feather and tell everyone that it's highly possible that a family of Spix's macaws are living in the Amazon forests. Linda and Tullio are going to stay there until they find the macaws and give them the protection they deserve. Jewel gets really excited to hear this and wants to help in finding the macaws. She also yearns for the wildlife and wants her kids to connect to their roots. Blue doesn't have a reason to argue and starts preparing for the journey. However, he's not ready to give up city life. He shares this news with his friends who start telling him how dangerous Amazon is. It's full of bugs and reptiles and Blue is not trained to deal with such circumstances. But Raphael tells Blue to try it for the sake of Jewel. He should consider it a family trip as they have to come back anyway. Blue feels better and gets ready to leave. He packs his toolkit and turns on the GPS on his iPad so they don't get lost. Raphael and the other two friends, Pedro and Nico, join them too as they want to get some inspiration for the upcoming carnival. They travel for days to reach the sea and look forward to getting on the ship to Amazon forests. Unfortunately, they get spotted by their sworn enemy, Nigel. He has been looking forward to getting his revenge because he lost his wings in a fight with Blue. Nigel escapes his caretaker along with a poisonous frog named Gabby and an anteater named Charlie. They get inside the ship and wait for midnight to attack Blue. Nigel plans to use Gabby's venom to take his revenge as she is ready to do anything for him. Gabby is madly in love with Nigel, but she keeps herself away because her venom can kill anyone in seconds. Nigel wakes up in the middle of night and gathers his mates to find Blue. On their way, the anteater starts looking for ants and his head gets stuck in a bottle. While trying to get it out, he accidentally hits the horns and wakes up all the passengers on board. Nigel loses his chance to kill Blue and decides to follow them to the Amazon forests. Beside them, someone else has reached the forests as well. It's the big boss of the illegal logging team. They have been secretly cutting trees and selling them in the city. If Linda and Tullio succeed in finding the macaws, they will bring more tourists and nature activists. After that, illegal logging will not be possible. Therefore, the big boss sent his men to catch the zoologists. Meanwhile, Blue has entered the beautiful Amazon forests with his family and friends. Jewel is really mesmerized by the natural atmosphere, but Blue feels uncomfortable. He asks everyone to stay together until he finds any clue of Linda and Tullio. When he returns, all of his family and friends have disappeared. Blue gets really worried and starts looking for them. Suddenly, someone picks him up and takes him to another part of the forest. Blue starts screaming for help, but the kidnappers are no one else than the lost flock of Spix's macaws. They have brought Blue's family members and friends as well. They call their leader, Eduardo, who starts investigating the guests. Jewel tries to defend her husband, But when she looks at Eduardo closely, she realizes that he's actually her father. She was just a child when the loggers started a fire, and Jewel got separated from her family. She never knew that they all survived except her mother. Eduardo is really happy to meet his daughter, and even happier to see his grandchildren. However, he doesn't seem impressed by Blue, but hugs him to say thanks for bringing back his daughter. He introduces them to the rest of the flock and explains how they have been running away from the loggers for the past few years. Luckily, they have found a hidden part of the forest where the loggers haven't reached yet. Eduardo asks all the macaws to come out of their nests and welcome his daughter. One of them sings a whole song for her and explains how he has been waiting for this moment for a long time. This is Roberto, Jewel's childhood friend. They seem to be really close, which makes Blue a little jealous. Moreover, Roberto is Eduardo's wingman, while Blue is disliked by most of the wild macaws. Jewel also ignores Blue and joins the flock to sing their traditional songs. Blue starts feeling like an outcast, but doesn't share his thoughts with anyone else. Meanwhile, Nigel climbs up a tree with Charlie's help, and he locates the macaws' hideout. They seem to be partying right now, but Nigel is going to destroy their happy moment very soon. Pedro and Nico are also exploring the forest, and believe that there are a lot of talented animals here. They can be taken to the city so they can perform in the carnival. Eduardo hears their conversation and tells the birds that no one is allowed to leave the forest or bring in anything related to the human world. Pedro and Nico get really heartbroken, but their grief is nothing in front of what Blue is facing. Roberto is sticking around with Jewel and invites her to stay at his nest along with the kids. Jewel politely declines and prefers sleeping in the guest area. This huge nest was also built by Roberto, who wanted to start a family here. The one he likes is already married to someone else, but Roberto doesn't seem to be giving up so easily. Blue gets really angry but stays quiet because he doesn't want to ruin Jewel's happiness. However, deep inside in his heart, he is scared of losing Jewel and his kids. The next morning when he wakes up, all of his family members are gone. The days in the forest started really early, and everyone had gotten up hours ago. Jewel is hanging out with her dad while the kids are exploring new fruits with their aunt. Everyone is fitting in this new lifestyle except for Blue. Eduardo understands the situation and offers to give Blue a tour around the forest. Blue gladly accepts the offer and rushes to grab his tool bag. Eduardo reminds him that the bag belongs to humans, and Blue must leave it behind if he wants to join the tribe. Blue has no intention of moving to the forest, but Jewel advises him to obey Eduardo while they are here. Blue tries to get closer to his father-in-law and asks a lot of questions to know more about him, but Eduardo orders him to stay quiet, as it is time to shake the city habits off of Blue. He puts the poor bird under hard training. Blue is forced to roll in mud and learn to make camouflage. Eduardo also shows him how to deal with deadly predators like crocodiles and poisonous snakes. Afterward, Blue is tied upside down so he can learn to use his beak. As the hard training ends, Eduardo starts talking about their culture and values, but Blue is too tired to hear any more of the nonsense. Suddenly, some scarlet macaws greet them, but Eduardo isn't happy and asks them to leave. The blue and scarlet macaws have divided the land among them, and they aren't allowed to cross borders. On their way back, they notice the loggers, whom Blue mistakes as Linda's team. He wants to meet them because Linda is like his family, but Eduardo disapproves. He believes that humans are their sworn enemies. The macaws have survived so far because they stayed away from humans. Therefore, Blue should also break his ties with the humans. Meanwhile, Linda and Tulio are still looking for the macaws. Tulio climbs up a tree to investigate some nests, but he notices some smoke rising from the nearby trees. He follows the smoke and reaches one of the loggers. Linda gets angry to see him and jumps forward to stop the logger. She starts explaining how these trees are essential for the birds, but the logger doesn't pay attention to her. After a while, more loggers arrive and surround the couple from all sides. Tulio voluntarily distracts the loggers and asks his wife to run away. Meanwhile, Eduardo returns to the tribe and tells Roberto to stay alert of the loggers, because he believes that Blue is not qualified enough to protect them. Blue is not interested in doing that either and wants to return home as soon as possible. However, his kids and friends have learned how to enjoy themselves here. They gather all the animals and hold an audition for the upcoming carnival. They can't return to the city, but the carnival can be brought to the forest. Among the participants, Nigel also sneaks in to find Blue. Pedro and Nico don't recognize Nigel and ask him to give an audition. Nigel also forgets about his main goal and takes this chance to show off his poetry skills. All the birds love the performance and let Nigel stay so he can perform in the carnival. Once Nigel succeeds in deceiving the birds, he gets back on his mission. He plucks some thorns from a porcupine and covers them in Gabby's venom. During the carnival, the anteater will throw these thorns at Blue and kill him in one shot. Unaware of what's coming his way, Blue is busy with his iPad. Despite Eduardo's advice, Blue wants to locate Linda and Tulio. Once he introduces them to the tribe, all the birds will understand that there are good humans too. Blue shares his plan with Jewel, but she doesn't like it. She trusts whatever her dad says and advises Blue to stop thinking about the humans. Hearing this, Blue asks Jewel what has changed her mind, because they came here to help Linda and Tulio. Jewel doesn't explain herself and leaves after saying that some places shouldn't be found by the humans. Blue gets really heartbroken and shares everything with his friends. His wife is changing, his father-in-law hates him, and Roberto is always hovering over them. Blue doesn't know how to fix everything. He just wants to help Linda and Tulio and go back home with his family. His friends understand his concern, but they advise him to see the forest from Jewel's eyes. He needs to accept her roots and try standing beside her so she doesn't need anyone else like Roberto. Blue finally understands and decides to surprise Jewel by bringing her favorite Brazil nuts. The next morning, Blue goes to search for the nuts and luckily finds the right tree. However, he accidentally crossed the borders and reached the scarlet macaw's side. They assume that Blue is stealing their food, so they declare a war. Blue returns to the tribe and tells everything to Eduardo. He gets really angry because if they lose the war, their side of land will also be taken away by the scarlet macaws. Blue wants to help in the war, but Jewel asks him to stay away because she also believes that Eduardo and Roberto are better at handling big matters like this. Blue feels hurt, but he stays quiet because he's the one who triggered the war. Later that day, the Blue and Scarlet Macaws gather in the Pit of Doom. What they called war is actually a soccer match. Blue is really good at this game and wants to play, but Eduardo wants him to serve water to the audience. The Blue Macaws take the lead at first, but soon start to fall behind. Eventually, one of their players gets injured and Eduardo has to replace him with Blue. The innocent Blue happily gets on the field, but no one passes the ball to him. Roberto keeps the ball to himself so he can get all the glory. The match reaches the final moments, and the team that scores the last goal wins the game. Blue finally gets his hands on the ball and plays like a pro. However, in excitement, he throws the ball in the wrong goal. The opponent team gets the score and wins the game. Everyone looks disappointed with Blue, and they leave without saying a word. Blue has also tried enough. He has accepted the fact that he can never be the bird Eduardo wants him to be. It's time to go home. Jewel asks Blue to look around and realize that his kids are loving being in the wild. Maybe this is their home. Blue refuses to accept that because he has struggled enough to fit in this so-called home. Maybe it's home for Jewel, but not for him. Saying this, Blue leaves the tribe to search for Linda and Tulio. He arrives at their campsite and drops his tool bag there. He didn't leave his family. He just came here to say a final goodbye before getting back to the tribe forever. Roberto follows him to the campsite and assumes that Blue is helping the humans in locating their tribe. Before Blue can explain anything, a tractor heads their way. The loggers are getting near to the tribe. Blue saves Roberto and asks him to warn the tribe. Meanwhile, he will try to find Linda and Tulio to take their help. Little does he know, Linda and Tulio are captured by the evil big boss of the loggers. He ties them around a tree and leaves them to get eaten by wild animals. Luckily, Blue arrives in time and unties the ropes. He guides Linda and Tulio towards the tribe so it can be saved. They must hurry because loggers have already reached the tribe. Roberto speaks against Blue and calls him a traitor who's helping the humans. Eduardo asks his tribe to evacuate the trees, but Jewel doesn't want to leave without her husband. Blue is her real family. Blue arrives at the right moment and explains himself to Eduardo. He wants everyone to work together to save their home. It might be full of bugs and reptiles, but it's there, and they must save it. The birds agree with Blue, and they all gather to attack the loggers. Seeing so many of the rare birds, the loggers get scared and stop their tractors. Eduardo asks Blue to lead the way, and Blue gladly does that. The birds start poking the loggers and damaging their equipment. The scarlet macaws and other animals join them too. Together, they succeed in protecting their home. The big boss still doesn't give up and puts some dynamite on the trees. Blue carries the dynamite to the sky, but Nigel hangs on him too. When they come down, Charlie throws the venom thorn, but it accidentally hits Nigel. Seeing Nigel dying, Gabby drinks her own venom to die with her love. However, the birds point out that Gabby is mistaken as a poisonous frog. Her parents lied to her. She is totally harmless. Hearing this, Gabby gets really excited and starts kissing Nigel like she has been waiting for this moment her whole life. After a few days, Linda and Tulio broadcast their discovery to the whole world, and promise to protect this forest at all costs. Moreover, Blue is finally accepted in the tribe and starts his new life in the beautiful forests of Amazon.